So if you live in a flat and you think that you can't get an EV because of charging costs, hold on to your butts, because for the next few minutes, I'm gonna take you on a ride. Now this ride is gonna save you a few £100s, and I'll show you a few cost calculations that may just surprise you. You see, what I found buried in the government documents will make your hair stand on end, and there are 3 hidden barriers that explain why most flat dwellers never see this money. So here's a really nuts statistic. Over 30% of homes, that's about 8 to 12 million households, don't have suitable parking for EV charging. Now, if you're one of them, you're probably paying about £800 to £1,200 per year for public charging, while homeowners smugly charge for £200 to £500 at home. And yeah, you got it right. That's an extra £600 every single year just because you live in a flat or apartment. And over 5 years, that's about £3,000 down the drain. Now look, apologies for the figures, but I've spent a few weeks analysing every government scheme, digging through Reddit forums and even tracking down real flat dwellers who've tried this grant. And what I found is a little unhinged. But first, I want to know your thoughts on this. Should the government force landlords to install EV chargers, even if it means high rent for everyone? Do me a favour and drop your comments below. This is a debate, this is getting really heated at the moment, and I want to know where you stand on this. It's called the Electric Vehicle Charge Point Grant. They call it the EVCG, and it gives flat owners and renters up to about £350 or 75% off installation costs, whichever is lower. Now, the government says that this is available for flat owners and renters with off-street parking. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. There are actually 3 hidden requirements they bury in the customer guidance that trips up most applications. But let's take a closer look at those sneaky requirements. If you want the complete landlord negotiation templates, cost calculators, and the approved installer list I mentioned in this video, I've put everything free in our EV Buyers Protection community. Link in the description. Alright, let's get back to those 3 hidden requirements that no one is talking about. First, you need dedicated off-street parking. Not just any parking space, it has to be allocated specifically to your property. And if you share a communal car park where everyone else can park anywhere, unfortunately you don't qualify. Second, you need written landlord permission. Not a text message, not a verbal, yeah, sure. A proper written consent letter. And on top of that, your landlord has to understand they might be liable for ongoing maintenance. And third, you must already own or have ordered an eligible EV. You can't apply for the grant hoping to buy an EV later. The grant is tied to a specific vehicle. Now look, these 3 points alone wipe out about 60% of flat dwellers before they even start. Now, I've been going through a lot of the things online, and this is where everyone's getting everything wrong, including some major YouTube channels actually. There is no March 2026 deadline for flat dweller or home charger grants. You see, that March 2026 deadline, it's for workplace charging grants for schools and public buildings. The home charger grant for flat dwellers has absolutely no expiry date currently published. Look, I'm telling you this because I'd rather you have the facts than some clickbaity urgency that isn't true. So let's talk some real numbers. The average installation cost between £800 and £1,500, and with the grant, you're looking about £450 to £1,150 out of your pocket. And look, applications typically take about 1 to 2 weeks for approval, and then another 2 to 4 weeks for installation once you've been approved by the installer. And look, here's what the government don't tell you. Applications actually have a high approval rate when you meet all the eligibility criteria. But the issue isn't approval, it's that most flat dwellers can't meet those criteria in the first place. Now let's face it, if your landlord allows satellite dishes, should there be a law forcing them to allow EV chargers as well? You see, the property industry is absolutely furious about proposals like this. What's your take? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I've analysed hundreds of these experiences from people living in flats, apartments and properties with on-street parking only. And so on Reddit, Twitter and Facebook, here's what actually happens out in the real world. You see, the biggest issues aren't what you'd actually expect. Recent surveys show about 86% of landlords would install chargers if asked properly. So landlord refusal isn't actually the main barrier. The real problems are no dedicated parking spaces, building electrical capacity issues, and buildings where the parking is too far from the electrical supply. But the thing is, when it works, people are saving about £500 to about £700 per year. And here's what Sarah from Manchester told me. She got her grant approved in about 10 days. Installation took about 3 weeks, and she's now charging her Nissan Leaf for about £15 a week instead of £50 at public charges. And do you know what's interesting? London has about twice the success rate of rural areas, mainly because I think its newer buildings have better electrical infrastructure and more dedicated parking arrangements. Now look, if the home charger grant isn't going to work for you, don't panic. I found some alternatives that might actually be better. Now look, option number 1 is communal charging. Your building can apply for about £30,000 in infrastructure grants to install shared charging points. This works especially well in newer developments or buildings with active management companies. Option number 2, and this is actually the best for most flat dwellers, is workplace charging. So what you've got to do is you've got to push your employer to install chargers. They can get grants too, by the way, and you'll charge during the day when the electricity is often cheaper. Now, option number 3, if you're stuck with public charging, here are some proven ways to cut your costs by about 20 to about 50%. You use apps like ZapPay or PlugShare to find the cheapest rates. And then what you do is you just charge during off-peak hours when possible. And consider subscription services if you use the same network regularly. Option number 4 is future-proofing. So the government is planning new building regulations for 2025-2026, and that will require all EV charging infrastructure in all the new residential developments. So if you're looking to move, be sure to factor this into your decision. Now, should EV owners get priority parking in city centres, even if it pushes out lower income drivers who can't afford EVs yet? Because this policy is being tested in 3 UK cities right now, and just let me know, is that fair or unfair? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Right, let's get down to the practicality here. So here's what you should do based on your situation. If you're a flat owner with dedicated parking and an EV, apply through the approved installer list. I've got the complete list in the description down below, and it just takes about 30 seconds to check if you qualify. Now, if you're renting, here's my proven landlord negotiation approach that's helped hundreds of people so far. First, you've got to research if any neighbours have chargers. Social proof really works here. Second, you've got to offer to handle all the paperwork yourself. And third, you've got to emphasise that it adds property value and attracts better tenants. And look, if you have no dedicated parking, focus on workplace charging or look for flats or apartments that have existing charging infrastructure. And honestly, these alternatives are often better than home charging anyway. And you're not tied to one location, and the workplace charging is usually cheaper actually. Now look, whatever route you choose, here's your timeline. The research takes about a week and applications take about 1 to 2 weeks. Approval for installation is about another 2 to 4 weeks after that. So you're going to be looking about 2 months from start to finish. Now look, everything I've mentioned in this video so far, the landlord negotiation templates, the cost calculators, the approved installer list, that complete eligibility checker, and even examples of successful landlord letters, it's all free in our EV buyers protection community, and the link is in the description if you're interested in that. And look, if this video helped you avoid a costly mistake or discover money you didn't know was available, smash that like button if it genuinely helps other flat dwellers find this information. And also make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on any of the news that I've got coming in the next videos. Until then, drive safe, charge smart, and remember, the best EV deal is the one where you know exactly what you're paying for. Look guys, my name's Des from the Electric Oracle. Thank you so much for watching, and you've got to watch this video next.